Everywhere you look, this story falls apart because it is a tissue of lies designed by a death cult, satanic death cult, peopled by psychopaths. And the biggest trait of psychopathic mentalities is lack of empathy. Imagine the deletion of empathy required to do that to America, to do that to the loved ones of those people, for a political satanic end of killing even more people in the Middle East year after year after year ever since. We are looking at one of the greatest crimes in human history, certainly in American history. In American history, absolutely. No one has gone to jail for it. And the people that were involved in it, in the cover-up, in the orchestration of it, are all going about their rich lives unmolested, while 3,000 families grieve for the rest of their life. It's infuriating.
Bothers you?
It bothers me. It bothers me because it's infuriating. It bothers me because the same people today and the same networks today are orchestrating mayhem all over the world, including every day moving closer and closer to the total control of humanity via AI connection to the human brain. These same people that are behind that, the same people, networks that are behind the hysterical explosion of censorship of alternative information in Silicon Valley, are all the same people. You look at who controls Facebook, Zionists. Who controls Google, Zionists. Who controls YouTube, Zionist, owned by Google. And these are the people that are shutting down the circulation of information to expose what the same networks are doing. And so what I've done with this book, because, you know, if you care about truth, then you don't care about consequences, because if you care about consequences, you won't deliver the truth, because you'll be saying, this is what I know has happened, and I know I should put this out, but what are the consequences for me? Considering consequences are a prison that allows these people to do what they do, because their currency of control is intimidation. So I wrote the book. I know what the reaction's going to be from the very networks that I'm exposing. He's anti-Semitic. He's saying it's all a Jewish plot, which, as you know, is exactly what I'm not saying. Jewish people, the Jewish community must read this book to see how they've been shafted, not just in this, but across a great range of things by this Sabbatean Frankist death cult. And they can throw at me what they like. And it's not impossible, Brian, I say this towards the end of the book, it's not impossible that they'll set up some attacks on a Jewish target and blame the person that did it, or it was that David Icke book that inspired him to do it. That is not impossible, because that's how these people work, to demonize and to get the book off the market. Or we must ban this book, look what it's making people do. All this stuff is exactly how they work, and people need to be aware of this. But what happens to me doesn't matter. I am an expression of infinite awareness, and I'll continue my eternal journey of exploring forever, whatever happens to me. What I care about is that this death cult no longer controls the direction and the destiny of planet Earth and the human family, including Jewish people, by its beyond description extreme psychopathic nature, which means it has no empathy, thus no emotional consequences for whatever it does, thus there are no limits. And so if people say, and this is one of the reactions, no one would ever do that. No, you would never do that. The next lady walking down the street would never do that. These people would do that, and not only that, they'd get sexually high from doing it. That's how they work. And so what happens to me is irrelevant. What happens to human society is what I care about. I'm 67. You know what I mean? I could just walk away and live my life out. But I look at my grandkids, I look at my kids, I look at other grandkids and other kids, I look at the young generations and the not so young generations, and I see what's coming for them, orchestrated by the very same death cult that was behind 9/11. And I will not rest until I've done every possible thing I can to expose them, whatever the effect of me, so we've got a chance of bringing an end to this nonsense. Because if we don't, then what Orwell thought about and wrote about is a tea party compared with what these people have in mind.